Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, families. It's Mrs. Rogers. I'm here again today, but today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to share our first read aloud together. And you know that when we work on read alouds at school, we talk about what type of book the book that we're sharing is. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the cover of this book. The title of it is Chester's Way by Kevin Hankes. And I want you to just look at the cover and tell me if you think that this book is a narrative story, one that's just a story for fun, or if you think it's an expository story, one that's going to give us information about it. So just take a look. Did you say narrative? Yeah, it's a narrative story. It's just a story for fun. And it's a story about two little boys who really do a lot together. And it's also about welcoming somebody else into their little club. So I want to talk to you. I'm sorry if it's a little bit difficult to see some of the picture. It's such a bright sunny day out, so that's a good thing. But the author's name of this is Kevin Hankes. And we know that authors do all the writing of the words in the story. But in this book, Kevin Hankes is also the illustrator. So he not only has written all the words, he's drawn all the pictures with it too. So this narrative is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk a little bit about the end, at the end, what we think the story means to us, what the meaning of, or what the author was trying to tell us by writing this story, okay? There's one other thing I wanted to talk to you about. I'm going to open to the title page. Can you see that? Whoop. Can you see that title page? Sorry, this is a little bit different for Mrs. Rogers. There's a little word down at the bottom of the title page, and it says Green Willow Books. Green Willow Books is a publisher. A publisher is a person or group of people that work together to create the book so that it can go out to different stores and so that people like you or I can purchase it and buy it and read it and enjoy it. So we have Chester's Way by Kevin Hankes, and it's published by Green Willow Books. Are you ready to enjoy? All right, I'm going to do my best so that everybody can see the pictures. Oh, there's a dedication page here too. It says for Jenny. I know it's a little bit tricky to see. Chester had his own way of doing things. It says, "Hello, my name is Chester. I like croquet and peanut butter and making my bed." He always cut his sandwiches diagonally. He always got out of bed on the same side. And he never left the house without double knotting his shoes. Chester always had the same thing for breakfast: toast with jam and peanut butter. And he always carried a miniature first aid kit in his back pocket, just in case. "You definitely have a mind of your own," said Chester's mother. "That's one way to put it," said Chester's father. Chester's best friend Wilson was exactly the same way. That's why they were best friends. Chester wouldn't play baseball unless Wilson played, and they never swung at the first pitch or slid head first. Wilson wouldn't ride his bike unless Chester wanted to, and they always used hand signals. If Chester was hungry, Wilson was too, but they rarely ate between meals. "Some days I can't tell those two apart," said Wilson's mother. "Me either," said Wilson's father. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester. That's the way it was. Let's see how we can show you those pictures a little bit better. Moving all around. They loved to go on picnics. Once, when Wilson accidentally swallowed a watermelon seed and cried because he was afraid that a watermelon plant would grow inside him, Chester swallowed one too. "Don't worry," said Chester. "Now, if you grow a watermelon plant, I'll grow one too." Chester duplicated his Christmas list every year and gave a copy to Wilson because they always wanted the same things anyway. For Halloween, they always dressed as things that went together: salt and pepper shakers, 2 mittens, and ham and eggs. They really are 2 peas in a pod, said Chester's mother. Looks like it, said Chester's father. This is where the seasons come in. In spring, Chester and Wilson shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked leaves together. And in the summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson, Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. And then Lily moved into the neighborhood. Lily had her own way of doing things. I'm Lily. I am the queen. I like everything. She wore band-aids all over her arms and legs to look brave. She talked backwards to herself sometimes, so no one would know what she was saying. And she never left the house without one of her very nifty disguises. Lily waved at all the cars that passed by, even if she didn't know who was in them. And she always carried a loaded squirt gun in her back pocket, just in case. She definitely has a mind of her own, said Chester. That's one way to put it, said Wilson. Now I want you to listen carefully to this part and see what you think about it. When Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said they were busy. When she called them up on the phone, they disguised their voices and said they weren't home. If Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson crossed to the other, and they hid. She's something else, said Chester. Looks like it, said Wilson. Did you notice that there were some unkind things being done there? Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. One day, while Chester, sorry boys and girls, let's go this way a little bit. One day, while Chester and Wilson were practicing their hand signals, some older boys rode by, popping wheelies. They circled around Chester and Wilson and yelled really unkind things. Chester and Wilson didn't know what to do. Just when they were about to give up hope, a fierce-looking cat with horrible fangs jumped out of the bushes and frightened the older boys away. I wonder who that cat is. Are you who I think you are? Chester asked the cat. Of course, the cat replied. Oh, thank you, Lily, said Chester. You're welcome, Chester, said Lily. Thank you, Lily, said Wilson. You're welcome, Wilson, said Lily. I'm glad you were wearing a disguise, said Chester. And I'm glad you had your squirt gun, said Wilson. I always do, said Lily, just in case. Afterward, Chester invited Lily over for lunch. You have a muscle mouse cup? Said Lily. Of course I do, said Chester. I do too, said Lily. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson cut their sandwiches diagonally. Lily asked Chester's mother if she had cookie cutters, and she made stars and flowers and bells. That's neat, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. That night, Lily invited Chester and Wilson to sleep over. You have a nightlight? Said Chester. Of course, said Lily. I do too, said Chester. Same here, said Wilson. Chester and Wilson wanted toast with jam and peanut butter for breakfast the next morning. Boring, said Lily. Try this instead. This is good, said Chester. Wow, said Wilson. After that, when Lily asked Chester and Wilson to play, they said yes. When she called them up on the phone, they had pleasant conversations, and if Lily was walking on one side of the street, Chester and Wilson waved and ran to catch up with her. Chester and Wilson taught Lily hand signals, and she taught them how to pop wheelies. Lily taught Chester and Wilson how to talk backwards, and they taught her how to double knot her shoes. Some days I can't tell those three apart, said Lily's mother. Me either, said Lily's father. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. For Halloween, they dressed as the three blind mice. For Christmas, Lily gave Chester and Wilson nifty disguises, and they gave her a box of multicolored shoelaces, extra long for double knotting. They loved to go on picnics. When Chester and Wilson told Lily about how they had each swallowed a watermelon seed once, Lily swallowed 3 of them. I'll grow a watermelon plant for each of us, she said. In the spring, Chester and Wilson and Lily shared the same umbrella. In winter, they never threw snowballs at each other. In fall, they raked the leaves together. And in the summer, they reminded each other to wear sunscreen so they wouldn't burn. Chester and Wilson and Lily, Lily and Wilson and Chester, that's the way it was. And then Victor moved into the neighborhood. Here's Victor. So I want to know what you're thinking about Chester's Way. I think that Kevin Henkes, the author, wanted to tell us something special. You think about it for a minute. What do you think he might be trying to say in this story? I think that he's trying to say that no matter how different we are, we should always treat each other with kindness, because kindness spreads friendship and it spreads love. And even though we're not the same type of person, it's okay. And sometimes those people who are so different from you turn out to be some of your very best friends. That's what I think he was trying to say. I hope that you do too. I think a lot of you probably realize that. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. In the story Chester's Way, 3 friends came together to do kind things for each other. I want you, with a grown-up, to try to make a list of 3 or 4 kind things you could do for a new friend or for a friend that you already have. And if you can, write down those things, and maybe moms or dads or special grown-ups can take a picture of them and send them to me to Mrs. Rogers' email, and I'll take a look at them. And if you don't have the time to do that, don't worry. It's just a little extra activity. My main goal was to be able to share a story with you that I think is really great today. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you get outside to enjoy this beautiful sunshiny weather. It's going to be a great weekend. And I hope you enjoy the weekend and have fun with your families. And if you guys need anything, you know where to find me. Your moms and dads know how to get to me. All right? Love you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.